Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.
Boxing King Media. We're back here in Johnny Nelson's garden, den, chicken huts, dogs running wild, and no granddaughter today.
No, she's not. Remember last time? You did well cutting the sound out. She was trying her hardest to ruin the lot, but no, I've got on Monday. So we'll see.
You did. A lot of people are fascinated by your chickens, Johnny, and I feel like I should have done it last time, but I want to give you the mic. Give us a bit of a tour of your garden, because I think it's like, if you was thinking of retired life after boxing, this would be like my top 3 way I would picture it. A nice garden with chickens running around. I'll probably remove for Jeffrey because he stinks. Other than that,
well, what I do is that sometimes I get the Shetlands at the front paddock. The Shetlands at the front paddock. I'll bring them in and put them on the grass. I should have done it before you come. And put them on the grass. But I don't like them mashing up my grass, so I should have actually done it. The girls are there.
about your ponies, yeah?
Yeah. The Shetland ponies are at the front, so they're usually in this. The girls are there. That's rice and peas there. Yeah, that's rice and that's there you're looking at, and she's next to brown stew, and that's and peas. And where there's polka somewhere, red somewhere about, but they're all right. Every morning it's like, come on girls, let's go. The girls are in, and these boys, they leave them alone. They're cool like that. Let me just get some food, I'll show you. Hold on, stay there. 1 second. Hold on, stay there. They'll be turning some thinking, what's Nelson doing? Yeah, stay there, one there. Ladies, come on. Come on. Here. You see Marley's terrorising them. Ladies, come on. Here. Shh. Come on. Yeah, Marley's there terrorising them. So usually they'll come out. Come on. When he's not around. The ponies, yeah, they're at the front. So we'll bring them in here. You know what, on a Sunday, you just chill. It's nice. It's just peaceful. It's quiet. The horses are kicking off next door. It's just nice. You hear them in the menage, just coaching some of the horses. It's just nice. So that party lifestyle for me is done. I'm a miserable old man. Something like that.
Right. You know what? We did all that in one take. So I don't even need to edit this, I don't think. I'll just move the camera up a little bit. So yeah, fruits of your labour, as they say. That's a good saying, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. But you know what? Actually, I suppose what you want makes you happy in life. You know, some people like living in a big city on the edge of everything. Some people like a bit of P&Q. I just like a bit of peace and quiet.
Stuff. Let's jump into the boxing, Johnny. The last time we spoke, obviously we spoke about the fallout from Usyk Dubois, the whole party gathering, whatever it was. So that's kind of evolved itself, and now we're talking about Anthony Joshua. Apparently Jake Paul is a favourite to fight Anthony Joshua. Obviously it's still rumours, but Eddie's done a couple of interviews and he's kind of hinted he is the front runner. I've seen a figure of 250 million flying about.
Well, there's 2 ways you can look at it. I think the kids kidded the kidders, as in Jake Paul genius. Now you're talking Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua in the same sentence. Do I think he'll happen? No, I don't. But Jake Paul's done the job. He's got the whole world talking about Jake Paul, a domestic fighter, fighting a former 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. And we're talking about it. So him to just throw it out there, he's throwing that money crumbs out there, it's there. So if by some miracle it does happen, that tells me AJ is cashing out. Because in reality, you know, it's like, what other opponents have been mentioned for AJ? He's at a stage in his career where he probably believes, okay, he's probably being real with himself, thinking, I'm looking at who's out there. Usyk's out there. You've got young guys like Itauma coming up, and other guys like that. He's thinking, I've got more chance of slipping up again than actually climbing to the top. So you know what? Why don't I cash out with something big like that? If they're talking 250 million, I'd do it if I was AJ at this stage of his career and getting paid that kind of dough. So I don't knock it at all. But I just think Jake Paul's played a blinder, and he's got everybody talking about it. That ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Whatever excuses say, trust me, that ain't gonna happen. And if it does, then AJ's basically saying thank you, we're gone. But I'd be very surprised if it did happen.
As a former professional athlete and as a boxer, I've seen this other narrative that it's crazily dangerous for Jake Paul if he steps in with AJ. Realistically speaking, in fact, Tyson Fury is also saying he's betting millions on Jake Paul to knock him out. So you tell me, as a former professional athlete, world champion, if he was to fight, and let's be real, Jake isn't like a full-on nobody because he can box a little bit. He has spent time in the ring. But how dangerous is it actually?
For Jake Paul, it's very dangerous, and this is why I don't think the fight will happen. He's done a great PR job. The kid of the kidders. He's done a great PR job because we think, God, this could happen, And it's what you do. Remember when, I think I mentioned it before, when Chris Jr. turned pro and his dad was shouting off about him fighting Golovkin at the early stages of his career. Then once that your name's put in the same sentence, now you're thought up there with the big boys. Jake Paul has thrown that out there, and he's watching everybody scatter for the bits, watching everybody pick up the crumbs of what he's saying. In reality, I think that's a dangerous fight for him. I think he's made the headlines, he's done the job, we're talking about him. Does it happen? No. If it does happen, that's AJ saying, I'm done. I expect AJ to tear him up, but that's him saying, you know what, I'm done. Because, I'm getting paid a handsome amount here. I'm at a stage in my career where, now it's about the dough. And I want to go to the right place because who else does he fight? Who else does Anthony Joshua fight for mad money? And you can be sure he wins. Who does he fight? So, but I don't see it happening. I saw the headlines and I just smiled. But let me say something. Now, I watched Undisputed the other day with Tyson Fury, and I'm kind of having a change of heart because I thought Tyson kicked off saying he thought he won, and I'm watching the fight thinking I can see him thinking that, and he's actually, and I've always given him stick only because sometimes he talks shit, and I call out the shit, but he's actually all right. I think I get you. When I saw him with his family, and you see the performer Tyson Fury, and you see Tyson Fury with his family, I actually think, you know what, he's all right. My job is I'm going to call out the bullshit. It's not a personal thing, but I actually saw his point. I actually saw how he thought he won the fight against Usyk, but that's just my opinion.
Indeed, let's see what happens with all that AJ, Fury, Usyk and Jake Paul mix, which sounds mad in itself. The other big story, and it's probably been the biggest one, and it's kind of been brewing for a long time. Everyone's been wondering what's going to happen with BOXXER. It obviously affects your job as well, because obviously you work for Sky and you work as part of the boxing broadcast team. So the first question is, Johnny Nelson still working for Sky Sports?
I'm still an employee of Sky Sports. Nothing's changed. What you see on the surface is what I see. I hear all the stuff about. I saw the headlines with Ben Shalom and BBC. Good on him. Well done for him. Sometimes you got to go through experiences to make your mistakes and learn from them. The relationship with Sky obviously lasted until it ended, and now he's gone on to the BBC. Let's hope he's learned a lot from the relationship with Sky for his position with the BBC and how that goes, because he got a prime spot. So it's a case of what he puts on, how he puts it on, and how he represents, because I think it was 25 years, it might have been 25 years since they did boxed on such a level, BBC, if that is the case. So let's just hope he handles it correctly and does himself, BOXXER, and BBC proud.
What do you think was the biggest mistake he made? Because and correct me if I'm wrong, am I right in saying Frank Warren left himself to go to Box Nation, and then Eddie Hearn left himself to go to The Zone? But this was like, obviously they didn't choose to renew it. Am I right in saying that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I know the whispers that I hear, and I see what I see, and I'm quite sure. Come on, Sky is the biggest platform out there, as far as I'm concerned, bar none. And so nobody leaves Sky to think I'm going to get, well, they do, to think I'm going to get bigger and better, and they don't. I'm quite sure Frank, I'm quite sure Eddie would come back to Sky in a heartbeat if they could. And I'm quite sure Ben would be with Sky if he could. So again, it's just you've got to try and create something that matches such a machine like Sky.
There's one thing, and I've asked a few people this, and this kind of, I don't know if you can probably answer it for me, because obviously you're kind of on the inside. Obviously, if I think of the stars that Sky have spent money on building, I think it was 36 million that they gave BOXXER over the last 3-4 years. A lot of money, and with that money, they've used it to promote, the potential, the guys that are being built as the next stars, like Ben Whittaker, Adam Azim, obviously Fraser Clark's there, Caroline Dubois, Callum Simpson on the come up as well. So they've put all this money together to build these guys, and then they're now risking losing them all to the Zone or other promoters, because there's rumours that the contracts might be void. So it's like buying a house and then kind of just selling it before you're cashing in on it. I don't get it.
So I think with the fighters, I think they must have had some kind of deal where, it was in conjunction with Sky. And I don't know what fighters Ben have stayed with Ben, or I see some fighters are negotiating elsewhere. I see BOXXER's signed with Frank, I think. So they're out in the wilderness, I hear, to do as they wish, or to look for what's on the horizon. And I think a lot of people are also waiting to see what happens with Sky, where they lie, how it sits. So I think for the fighters that were with BOXXER or with BOXXER, they've got to look at what suits them. How often is the deal with BBC? How does it actually look? What's the deal with BOXXER? Can they box on other shows? Can they be secured to have 3 or 4 fights that year? So I'm quite sure it's not a job I'd envy from Ben. What's the schedule? I don't know the BBC schedule. What's their intention?
From what Eddie Hearn said yesterday, again, this hasn't come from BOXXER. He said that it's quite, I don't know if you've seen it, it's quite funny the way he found out that, because Ben Shalom, the interview he did, he's not mentioned. He's just said multi-fight, multi-year deal. But Eddie's basically said that he's found out it's 4 shows a year, and he's found that information out based on the fact that the BBC, for some odd reason, contacted Matchroom to ask them if they could do the production for the shows. And apparently on this piece of paper, they had the details of how many shows there's going to be. So it's a bit embarrassing, really.
So in that, if they deal with BBC, which is, again, it's a play with words, and that's why when I saw the headlines from Ben, I thought the devil's in the detail there. So it's a play with words. So if it is 4 fights for the year, that means Ben either has to have another deal. Is it an exclusive deal with BBC, so he can't work with anybody else, or he's got to hope he can get his fighters elsewhere, because you can't have 4 shows a year and feed all your fighters. You just can't. So he's probably hoping something more can come of it. I don't know. I don't know the details. We can only speculate. But again, if BBC are doing that, if that is true, what Eddie said, then how much faith does it show in BOXXER and their production in what they're going to do? I don't know. I just think BOXXER were in a great position. They had the keys to the kingdom at Sky, and so they probably think, it's time to move on and do our own thing and try and do what everybody else did.
So the other rumour is that Sky are going to do shows, and it's a lot of stuff online that they're going to work with different promoters, and obviously the promoters that are available out there, I just can't understand how it would work. Like, you've now spent all this money to build these fighters from BOXXER, then why would you start building from scratch again? Explain that to me.
Well, I know outfits like.
What did Ben do that was so bad that there was no way they could continue? That's what I'm saying.
I've absolutely no idea, but something must have happened for it to be that case. I've no idea. I don't know. Or Ben might have thought, I'm going to try and do it my way, because there's rules and regulations, there's guidelines you've got to stick to, and if he didn't like that order, then he's thinking, I want to do it my way. So he goes to the BBC. So good for him. We'll see what happens with him. I think in regards to Sky's position, there was a time when Sky had 3 or 4 different promoters. I think it's a good idea. I think it makes all the promoters compete against each other to put on the best shows. So therefore on Sky it looks better. I think, you've got fighters. I'm quite sure, you've probably got fighters from 258, XYZ, that want to be on Sky, but they can't because they're in a certain situation with Matchroom or DAZN, whatever. I'm quite sure most fighters who would like to be on the Sky platform. So it's then down to the promoter to negotiate some kind of deal where they can have one foot in, one foot out. So if there's 3 or 4 different promoters then that could work. It's not an exclusive deal, but they know the biggest eyes, the biggest headline, the biggest spotlight is when you're on Sky. Because Sky, no matter what, they build it big, they build it good.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's going to be BBC Two for the main events. I think he's got a 2.5 hour slot just before match of the day, from what I understand. Quite a. What do you reckon of that?
Again, it's not just about turning up on Saturday night. It's about how you promote the show, how you sell the show, how you get the public interested, excited, anticipation for the show. So it's not just about turning your TV on the Saturday night, BBC One or BBC Two or BBC iPlayer. You've got to be able to package it well. And I personally think they'll struggle. That's just my personal opinion. From what I've seen, that's what I personally think.
Well, looking at BBC, have spent 233 million in 2 years ago. That's how much they spent on sports rights, and some of the sports they put on are random as hell. So I find it mad that they won't shell out maybe 20 million, even 25 million on more shows. I don't get it.
Yeah, but remember, as I said, I think it's 25 years. Was it Audley Harrison? So there's a reason why they've not dipped their toe back in that water again. Maybe they don't know, they don't love boxing that much. I don't know. So Ben's probably tickled them and given an appetite again for it. So again, all you can do is wish him luck in moving forward with them.
And just to clarify, because you work part of the boxing team, the fact that you're still turning up for work every day, we're expecting some sort of announcement or news on Sky's future in boxing?
Yes, yeah.
So you know something then?
No, I don't know anything. But I'm as in the dark as you are. But Sky has been in boxing for 40 odd years, and if anything but Sky showing boxing, anything else that happens like that, I think it'd be such a shame. I just can't see it. I think there's always an appetite for boxing at Sky. I don't know in what context, but there's always an option for it.
Just on them fighters, the main ones, people are suggesting Ben Whittaker, Adam Azim are technically free agents because their contracts are void again. This is just what's been said by people in the media and online in reports. If you're either of them two, what do you do? Where'd you go? Could you stay with Sky?
If I'm a Ben Whittaker, Callum Simpson, Lauren Price, if I'm any of those kind of fighters that's coming through, and I care about my career, I'm going to do what's best for my career. And unfortunately, in our sport, loyalty at that level, you're on a promise tomorrow. You've got to do what works for you. And the ones that have been mad successful are the ones that have done stuff that works for them. Naz, when they left Frank, went straight to Sky. You saw Leonard, you saw them do it. So once they did that move, they made mad money to a household names. But you've got to have the courage and the pulling power to do that, because you can't live on a promise from a promoter. You can't. So you've got to see it in black and white. You've got to tie him to a contract. I want this amount of fights this year. I want to make sure I've fought at this level. I've got X, Y, Z. Tying it up. And that's because you'll get so many fighters that have been spent their life waiting around. 2 years have gone by, 3 years have gone by, 4 years have gone by. The best has gone by, then you get your opportunity. And so you end up getting fighters that are frustrated because they were waiting on a promise.
Where do they go? Adam Azim, Ben Whittaker, where do them two go?
Well, they talk. They want to see what's on the table. They want to see, what can you offer me? What can you put on the table? How often can you get me out there? What can you make my purse? And put it in black and white. And if they don't get it, you got to pay me. So, and if promoters are willing to do that, then, I love the fact that fighters are getting the opportunity and getting paid and getting out there often. That's what's important to me. So again, they do that. The promoter's job is to make sure they provide.
And lastly, I just want to get you to do some predictions on the big show in Riyadh next week. The main, we'll start down the order. We've got Nick Ball, Sam Goodman, undefeated Australian. What does Nick Ball do, and how does that go?
Nick Ball is so underrated. And you look at him, he's a little short fella. He's very quiet, meek. Then he gets in the ring, he's like a tiger. I think Mr. Ball goes in there and he does the same again. He's all over. He's like a rash. Doesn't leave him alone, wins on points.
A good fight, a proper 50-50 David Adelaide, Filip Hrgovic.
Hrgovic is a very temperamental fighter, and sometimes you see him fight and he switches off partway through and it's like he's walking away. I think Dubois stayed on him. Was it Dubois? not Dubois,
Fabio.
Fabio stayed on him, and he just put the pressure on him. I think it's a good test. I think it's a good push, but I think Hrgović just might be a bit too wise.
Okay. Main event, a lot of people that have spoken about this fight, Dillian Whyte and Moses Itauma, they always start with like, why is Dillian took this fight, blah blah blah. It seems to go down that route. But I've been dissecting their records, and there's only one name that stands out on Moses' record, and that's Dempsey McKean. Obviously, that's no fault of his own. He's fighting whoever's in front of him, and he obviously smoked Dempsey in a round or two. But Dillian's done rounds. He's got a winning record against these guys: AJ, Fury, Parker, Chisora twice, Povetkin twice, Hellenius, Lucas Brown when he was undefeated, Jermaine Franklin, who gave Anthony Joshua a decent fight, Oscar Rivas, a big underrated win. I think he's won about 9 out of them 12, 13 fights. A big winning record against a really good mix of heavyweights.
Timing is everything, and Moses is a good fighter coming up. Dillian's not the fighter he was, and that's in the most respectful way I could possibly say that. So, but Dillian has one thing that Moses hasn't got. He's got wisdom, he's got experience, and he's been there. But it's just a case of he's going to need all that and a little bit more to switch this boy off. He's got to be tight, he's got to be strong, he's got to be stubborn, determined, he's got to do everything, and he's got to try and break Moses' heart, because Moses has tasted nothing but success. And so this is going to be a tough fight for this version of Dillian Whyte to get this fight coming through. I think it's going to be very, very tough. I think the old Dillian, I'd expect to do him. I think this version of Dillian, it's going to be a big ask, be a big tough ask, and don't write him off. He said, I'm always cast as the underdog. Don't write him off. But it's going to be a tough ask for him.
How does it end?
I think Moses nips it. But Moses learns a lot about himself.
How does he nip it? Points? Knockout?
If it's a knockout, it's got to be clean with Dillian, because he'll keep fighting until the referee stops him. And I'd probably look towards that stoppage for Moses.
That's it really, Johnny. Hopefully we'll get news on what's happening with Sky and what role are you... Would you ever become a promoter, Johnny?
No. You know what? Promoters get a lot of stick. They get a lot of flack. And you see, they get flack when they make money. Nobody talks about when they lose money. And I'm quite sure Eddie's lost money, Frank's lost money. Nobody talks about that. And a promoter, you've got to be very thick-skinned. You've got to take the good with the bad. And again, I've been around long enough to see how promoters operate. I'm thinking, boy, it looks good when it's good, but when it's bad, it's terrible. So would I? No. Is that Marley Chase? Oh, it's not Marley. Would I? No, I wouldn't. I'm actually working on something for boxers in the future, trying to create a pension scheme for fighters. We've been working with Royal London. I spoke to Robert Smith the other day. He liked what we've brought to the table so far. And so to me, if this comes off, we can pull it off. Then what will happen down the line is, this one not just be a national thing; it'll be an international thing, where boxers are taken care of, where boxers have an opportunity to make sure they're taken care of in the afterlife, after boxing. There's nothing there. There's no infrastructure there for fighters coming through. It's not like football. It's not like any other sport. When you're done, you're done. Bye. See you. So for fighters, we're just working on that. I'm always on the side of the fighters. I want the best what's for them, because so many times I've seen a promoter drive off in his big flash car, and the fighter's the one that's living on Skid Row. So we're trying to just devise something that works for the fighter. I know Paul Smith's got sort of a union going, and I know there's going to be a lot of backlash, a lot of pushback from it. But we've got to think about the fighters when they've done, not just about when they're here, because this is a cruel sport when you're not in it.
Very true, and credit for you to always thinking of different ways of helping fighters out retired. And that's it really. So and just on that promoting thing, so we're not going to see Johnny Nelson dressed as Don King with walking out of a Rolls Royce.
Oh yeah, no, no, them does it. Not for me. Not for me. I'm good. I'm good on this. I'm good with the chickens and the horse and the dogs. That's it. That's where you'll see me.
Johnny Nelson, thank you very much for your time.
Respect isn't given, it's earned in blood.
Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.